Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we got our next movie review for you, and that is Until Dawn. And so, if you're not familiar, this is a video game adapted movie. So, I don't, kind of dating myself a little bit here. I think the video game probably came out like a decade ago, and it started a lot, it arguably was the beginning of a lot of video games that came out after it that were story driven, horror based. Because we played Until Dawn, and then we fell in love with the Dark Pictures series. There's the Quarry. So there's lots of games out there that kind of followed in the footsteps of Until Dawn, and so arguably they would want to capture on that success during a time where video game movies and shows are arguably better nowadays.
You are spot on that decade ago. It came out in 2015.
All right. It felt like it's been, right around there. Of course, they did have their like remaster remake version come out, I think last year. Um, but we are here to talk to you about the movie. And we'll give the movie a rating and then talk about some spoilers. So, I'm just gonna go right out and say it. I think this movie sucked. It was bad. Like it wasn't even interesting to a degree. So like of course you get from the trailer that it's gonna be a bit different from the game. Because I mean the game itself, it is the type of game where you get to make choices, and depending on your choices, everybody could survive the night or nobody could survive the night, or a mix of people in between could survive the night. It just really depends on the choices that you make. And here in this movie, and we get this from the trailer, what's really happening is that, the one of our characters is kind of looking for, I think it's her sister, and then they go to the last location that they know where she was at, and they have basically this Groundhog Day situation where if they all die, then the time reverses and then they get to try again with a different type of horror. And the point of it is if you can survive until dawn, then you will get out of this loop. And honestly, there's really nothing beyond that that is really significant spoilers. Like you get the idea of what's happening in the movie from the trailer. Of course, there's a little bit of lore type stuff that's from the game that is peppered throughout the movie, but the movie does not follow the game at all. Like the only stuff that is really from the game is like the setting and the things that are happening around it. It took this movie about 30 minutes or so to actually get to something that has to do with the video game. And I kind of thought that was a very bad move. When you look at the trailer and you know what you're in for, you basically get that for that first 30 minutes. And then the rest of the movie, they're like, oh, wait a minute, the game is super popular. We should probably use some stuff from the video game. And that's when the things from the video game start to come out. But by that time, in my opinion, I was pulled out of the movie, like just because it sucks so much. Even the acting was like a very cheesy, subpar horror movie. If you're thinking you're going into this hoping to, be scared, I think you should try to look for something else. Um, Arguably, just play the video game. Find the video game. You can get it used probably at your local game store for like 10 or 20 bucks. Not the remastered version, but the original version. You can get that cheap. Spend your money there instead of going to the movies and just play the game with your friends. One, it'll be fun for a lot longer of a time, and two, it's a way better story from the video game's point of view. So my opinion, movie sucked. The acting was okay. The story was arguably stupid. Like, why would you even do that? Like, I don't even understand how the company that made Until Dawn even approved this. Like, I get it that it was a different take on it, maybe an artistic approach to how the way that the Until Dawn game functions. But at the same time, the story for the video game is miles ahead of what we got out of this movie. And so, um, yeah, I have really nothing good to say about the film. aside from what it tried to accomplish, it kind of works. But if you know what happens in the video game, I think you're going to be very, very disappointed. If you haven't played the video game, there's a chance you'll like it. But I would
For
not
that
be
same token, my mom has not played the video game and didn't know anything going into this movie, and she didn't like it either.
right. That is a fair point. So that I kind of gave my spiel. What's your thoughts?
I also was not a fan of this film. I think one of aside from the things that you've already mentioned, like the subpar acting, and that's a partial of acting and script writing, right?
Yeah.
It just seems low quality. Um,
It's one of those things like, so I don't know how much people pay attention to other things that are going on with pop culture, but I do know for the show The Witcher, so Henry Cavill was a part of that for a while, and then he got replaced. I've heard that he was a huge advocate during the filming and writing of that show of saying like, should we really be, making a derivative of what people love and like going down these other paths, or should we actually stick to the content material and give the people what they want? And I mean, I don't think anybody has said it, but he doesn't have a job with them anymore. So I wish there was more people that kind of stuck up for the franchises or adaptions that they are being a part of to, if something was great from storytelling, like that's literally what Until Dawn is. It is purely storytelling because there's not a whole lot of gameplay involved. So why would you make the choice to mess up the thing that made that game great? But anyways, I digress. Back to you.
Well, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was going to mention next is I did not care about any of these characters at all. And that's one of the things that's really missing, I think, that the game did well is, you have a lot of the game has a lot of downtime of just general character interaction. They're like teenage, young 20s, so there's drama, there's people liking other people and, that kind of thing. And it makes for at least some entertainment outside of, oh my gosh, this is scary. This film really didn't have that at all. There were some like maybe one-liners thrown in here or there to kind of insinuate like, oh, I like this person or just little things like that, but
Well,
nothing that
there was a love triangle like drama piece that was in there, but it wasn't compelling.
well, that's what I'm trying to say is there were some small little hints at things like that, but nothing that was entertaining or that made me want to watch or made me want to care or made me gravitate towards a certain character or anything like that.
Well, there was even things like it's been a little bit since we've played the video game, but there are some iconic moments that I remember from the game where I'm like, how in the world did they choose to do this approach when they had this kind of content available to them? So, for instance, there is a scene in the video game where there's this, I think they're a couple, and there's a saw blade in between them, and I think you had to like push it to one another to see who would you had to decide who to, not kill, or do you sit there and do nothing? Like, what would you do in that instance? And there's really nothing in this movie where we have that kind of tension where there's this couple where things are on edge because one of them might kill the other. They might say this relationship isn't worth it, or um they had some tough times before they got there. So will this be like a defining moment where, oh, I'm willing to put those things behind us because I didn't kill you? There's so many things that they could have done, and what ends up happening with this movie is, from the trailer, we know that the characters just eventually learn that, oh, it's just gonna start over. So the whole tension of people dying in this movie is gone. Like you don't even care because they even start to band together. Oh, this person died. So if we don't want to leave here without our friends, we all have to kill each other and then we'll start over. Like the tension is ripped out of the film once you do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we're ready for ratings. I don't feel like either one of us really enjoyed this movie. Honestly, it was such a disservice to the video game. The video game is so much better. Um,
And I know we kind of talked about ratings before we did this. After talking through it, I'm at a 1 out of 10 on this movie. This is gonna probably a running for worst movie of the year just because of the disservice that they did to the movie or to the video game, and then the just very crappy story that they decided to put together. I do not understand one bit how this made it even to filming. So I'm at a 1.
I think I'm gonna settle at a two. I can't quite go to a one. I feel like a one is purely unwatchable with nothing redeeming at all.
Would you watch this
I
again?
I would not watch this again.
Would you
I
play the
do think
video game again?
I would play the video game again.
I rest my case.
I'm at a two. I feel like they
Personally,
tried a little.
I felt like we should have came home because we went to the drive-in and we saw it at the drive-in. I feel like we should have came home, sat your mom down, and we could have took turns with the controller playing the video game just so she could actually experience what should have happened. But
Yeah.
that would have been like another 10 hours added to our night.
Yeah. I to me a one is completely unwatchable, and although I wanted to leave partway through the film because I was just that bored, it has to be really, really, really bad for me to give it a one, and I can't quite give it a one, but I am solid on
Better,
a two.
better or worse than Founder's Day? Or is it about the
Um,
same?
and what?
Or is it about the same?
I
Don't you
don't
dare
remember.
look at your Founder's Day rating.
No, I'm not looking. I don't really remember Founders Day a whole lot. Like I remember kind of some of it, but I'm blending it with Thanksgiving because those movies came out not too far apart from each other and they had the same principal idea, so like they're just kind of blending in my mind. I know that they're not the same quality by any means. Um, I don't know that I can give a good comparison to this film.
I would rather watch Founder's Day, 100%. At least Founder's Day had the thing going for it of who's doing it, and you know, are trying to guess along the way. Whereas this movie, it's just, oh, how are they gonna eventually get out of this loop?
One of the other things I want to say before we get to spoilers is that I was really surprised to see that this was rated R because although it has the gore content for rated R compared to PG-13, it felt very much like a PG-13 horror film, like where the it's just low quality and not good storytelling.
This movie should have been a TV series, I think. And they should have
You want it to
given
be longer?
I want it to be longer, but I want it to be faithful to the video game. Because I
Yeah.
almost wonder if what they were thinking of is like this video game is like a 10-hour video game and it's a cinematic video game, meaning all these scenes mean something. And so, how can we condense that to even like a 2-hour movie and still keep people engaged and also still have enough of the plot elements that make sense after we cut out a whole bunch of stuff? I could see that being a problem. The way you solve it is give it some time to breathe and make it a video game um, TV show adaptation. And video game TV show adaptations are very popular right now, and they're doing well. If they would have given it the love and care that it required, it probably could stand up next to, you know, I don't know if it would be The Last of Us level because the story isn't nearly as um, big as The Last of Us, but like The Last of Us is doing well, Fallout is doing well. I know there's plenty of others in development that will probably do well as well, but this wasn't it. So, all right, we're gonna go into spoilers. There isn't much to talk about here. This might even be shorter than our non-spoiler section, just because there was so much in the trailer that we could talk about.
I think the
So
only thing spoiler-wise to even mention is the Wendigo.
I think that was even in the trailer. Like we got to see the creature.
Might have seen them but not known what it was.
Right.
And I
So
I guess the gas station attendant too in his role. Like we've seen him in the trailer, but we don't really know his role.
Right. So the we open the movie with a character that is going through this process of trying to escape the Groundhog Day situation. And we see her having a hard time, but then we cut to our main group and we find out that one of the girls in the group is searching for her sister, which is the person we saw in the very beginning, and they're going to her last known location area. And so when they stop at a gas station, they ask, have you seen this person? And the gas station dude is like, well, a lot of, not here specifically, but down the road at this particular house, lots of people go missing. And so they head over there to try to see if maybe that's where the sister was. And so when they get to the house, they see in the guest book that the name is written tons and tons of times. And so they're starting to wonder, like, what the heck is going on here? Eventually, we get at least what I think they're trying to mimic. It's not the exact character, but it's similar to the character from the video game with the mask. He, like, comes out and he murders everybody. It happens super quick. Honestly, I was like, is it over yet? Even though it's been like 20 minutes. But then the characters realize that the time gets reset and that, they're all freaking out like, "Oh my God, I thought I was dead." And then they realize all their friends are still alive and they're starting to piece together that, there's a different type of horror that is happening every time that they reset. They're starting to piece together, why was the list so long? And it's because you have to survive until dawn to get out of this business. Um, Honestly, what I felt is that the movie felt way more like the video game Cabin Fever. No, not Fever. Cabin Factory, where it's a super cheap game, and I highly recommend if you want to play. It's on Steam for like $3. And that's a video game where it's your job to go in the house, see if there's anything weird going on. And if there is, you would say it's haunted. If it looks normal, you'd say it's fine and you would send it off. And you have to get like 8 or 10 of them in a row to win the game. That's what this movie truly felt like because they would get killed and then they would have a new thing that's trying to kill them, rinse, repeat as they're going throughout. They're also learning that there's a lot of other missing people that have been a part of this. At one point, there's a character where she like gets possessed, quote unquote, by these missing people, and she's like pointing at the different pictures, and they're talking through her as a medium to the other people in the room.
That was a
So
pretty cool scene.
it was,
It's
it
probably my
was
favorite scene.
It was an interesting way to convey that information. I will give it that. Um, Trying to think. So somewhere along the way, the characters do start to piece together that there was a mine over there and something went wrong in the town, and that's kind of how this whole Wendigo process is happening. Like people started to turn into creatures, and we start to have that happen with our own characters as well. There's a scene where they're in a bathroom and someone wants a drink and they take a drink of the water even though it looks disgusting and they explode. And so basically, and we're kind of running towards the end of the movie here, they kind of find out that the gas station guy is the one that's kind of been running this whole thing and the our one of our main characters that's confronting him. Let's see, what is her name so I can give a little bit of context here.
Over.
I thought it was Nina.
Oh,
Well, to be fair, I got Clover and Nina mixed up a lot because it seemed like in the trailer that Nina was like the main character, but I feel like Clover was the one that had a lot of screen time as well and like focused on her character. So,
Over's the one whose sister is missing.
gotcha. So because they know about this whole water drinking exploding business, Nina sees in the ceiling that there is a leak, and so she like moves the gas station dude's coffee mug over so that it drips in it a couple times while he's not looking and moves it away. And then when he drinks it, he explodes, and then they win the game. Jumanji, basically. And so then the movie ends. The sun rises, they made it till dawn, and then they get in the car and they leave. There are some things sprinkled in throughout that have to do with it that are either from the game or they mimic part of the game. And I say that because there's a scene where I think it was Nina, where she sees her sister as like one of these like Wendigo creatures.
Clover.
And Clover, sorry. Was it Clover?
Clover is the one who has her sister
I could have
there.
sworn you just said a second ago it was Nina. Okay, whoever it was. They see their sister and, in this form and they're like talking to her and like having this conversation. That also happens in the video game between the main character and his sister that he's trying to like avenge her suicide from, where he like talks to her. And I even think that she ends up like attacking him or something. But so we have like that little interaction that's similar to the game. There's also a part where I think it was the gas station dude is like there's a file on his desk and we see that it's the main character from the original game. Now, I couldn't tell if that he was from before and he was like already somebody that has encountered the situation, or is this movie kind of a prequel and that guy is like the next one on his list to, bring the group of friends in? I'm not too sure, but there was that connection to his character at least.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think is super important?
I don't think so. I think that you get most of this movie from the trailer, and I think you touched on the things that weren't in there, so I think that's a good wrap up.
I actually thought of one more thing. So this gas station guy, his name is Dr. Hill. So we'll start calling him that. But in the video game, the so like when you're going in between scenes and you're like talking to this doctor, he asks you a lot of questions of like, are you more afraid of this? Are you more afraid of that? And like you're picking these things while you're playing the video game. We don't really know how much that really affects the story in the game, but it is kind of tied into the movie because towards the end, when they're having their like final standoff and all the revelations are coming to fruition, he is talking to our main character, saying like, all of this was based off of your fears and what you're scared of is what was created in the house, blah blah blah. And so there was kind of that connection between what happens in the game and what happens in the movie. But again, kind of like the video game, there in the video game we never really see a payoff as we're going with it. And in the movie, it's kind of like it's thrown in at the end so that they can have one more connection to the video game. I feel like he didn't even have to say that and it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite, needless to say. Trying to think if there's anything else that's worthwhile.
Either survive the night or you become a part of it.
Right. So if you don't survive the night, then you just get caught in this loop and you become part of the the house. Maybe, and this is super stretch, okay? You know how we saw the dude's file from the previous game or the from the game? Well, in the game, remember I made the connection of like the very first character that they encounter, maybe that was like a connection to the game because that's who was haunting them and stalking them. When he says, if you don't survive the night, you become part of the process, maybe he was there before and he brought his friends and, he did what he did, but then he didn't survive the night. So now he is part of the loop where he plays that character, you know, when people first get there. Does that make
I
any
did,
sense?
I did not follow what you're talking about.
So we know that the file was on the desk. We know that the doctor knew about that character, the one from the video game that brought his friends to the cabin and he wears that mask with like the skeleton looking thing on it. You remember that?
Yeah.
So what I wonder is, did the events from the video game happen before this movie, and maybe those friends got out, but maybe he did not survive the night? Because one in the video game, he ends up getting like intertwined, like his plan kind of folds on him because he becomes, attacked by Wendigos as well. So it makes me wonder if that happened, he didn't survive the night. And so that's why that character is now part of the loop system, because he would be like, if he's part of that group and he was originally trying to like kill the people that he brought to the cabin, maybe he is that character that is the first one that they encountered, since it kind of mimicked what was from the game.
Maybe.
But again, that could be a very tinfoil hat. It was not conveyed in the movie. So
I
I
think
don't know.
if you were somebody who doesn't know the video game, you just think it's a file of some random person. 100%.
Correct. And you definitely wouldn't have made that connection to that character. Like me, I think what would have strengthened that, and we're gonna wrap it up here in a minute because I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. I think what would have strengthened, like if that was the connection they're trying to make, because on the file you see his face. If they would have had next to his face like a picture of him in costume when he was stalking his friends and killing his friends from the video game, I think that would have helped make the connection of, oh, that is this guy from before. Because if we saw the mask and put the two together from the very first encounter that they had at the house in the movie, I think that would have worked. But it wasn't there, so I don't think it works. All right. We're gonna wrap it up here. So if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We do movie reviews all the time, and hopefully we get to cover the ones that are your favorites, and then you can come back here and see what we thought. Drop us a like if you liked the video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on Until Dawn. And if you drop your opinion in the comments, please let us know if you've played the game or if you haven't played the game, because I would love to know the difference in opinions depending on where you sit on that. So, and then as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.